when we talk about 5D, realize that what survives in 5D is awareness, becoming aware of these old patterns so that then you can embody a new aspect of yourself. Welcome back to another episode of Into the Vortex with Aaron Doughty. My name is Aaron Doughty, and I already recorded this episode. This episode is pretty epic, and we go over, I get vulnerable, and I share with you a lot of my shadow of 2020 to show how kind of the shadow was like a form of separation. When we talk about 3D to 5D, we're talking about 3D being more about separation, fear, chaos, low vibrational emotion, and then 5D being more about alignment, flow, connection, unity. And a lot of my shadow this year has been brought up more than ever before. And I share with you some of the insights that I had recently while I was in Mexico, Tulum, about my own relationship patterns and how that's kind of a part of the old system, and how awareness is really the key to us shifting into a higher state of consciousness. And also what we talk a lot about is how these, for a while, the 3D to 5D realities are going to be overlaid. And the key is us creating the bridge into 5D, the bridge into this new energy. This is something that Dolores Cannon talked about in her 17 different books, which were hypnotherapy sessions of people in a deep level of hypnosis, as well as the Law of One materials, which talks about what is called the harvest. And Bashar, so many different sources point to what is happening right now on the planet with this shift in consciousness. And in this episode, I want to share with you the personalized energy dynamics of it, plus the collective energy dynamic of it, but what that really means for us and what we can do about our own shadow. And I do that by sharing a lot of my shadow and how I become aware of it, and how becoming aware of it has really been key to me making changes. You know, I relate a lot of this also to fitness. You know, if we were when I first learned about fitness, my buddy Victor Otto, who's my best friend, he's a personal trainer, and he was like, you know, when I first met him 4 years ago, I started to do something called tracking my calories. Basically, to lose weight, all you got to do is burn more calories than you're consuming. It's like math. It's just super simple. But I wasn't aware of the calories I was eating. And I would do things like, you know, I wasn't in horrible shape, but I was what's called skinny fat. Like I wasn't fat, but I wasn't skinny. I was like, I had a lot of body fat in my body, but it's what they call it. But anyways, this is like 4 years ago. And what I would do is I wasn't aware of certain things. One thing I would do is I would eat like 5 globs of peanut butter on a sandwich, not knowing that 5 globs of peanut butter is like 1,000 calories, like the amount of globs that I had. I'd eat literally like 4 servings of peanut butter, and I had no idea. So I'd eat like half my calories in a snack and not know why I had a lot of body fat in my body. So awareness, though, once I became aware of, in 1 little tablespoon of peanut butter, there's 100 calories, and then in 1 serving, there's 200 calories. Wow. I'm like eating a lot of this little snack, and when I became aware of it, I can make changes. But I wasn't aware of it before that. So a similar way, I have certain energy dynamics in my patterns of my relationships that I was unaware of. And now this year I've become aware of them. And oh my God, it's like a whole new reality. And that's why I say what gets measured gets managed. What I'm trying to do with consciousness as well is kind of show, you know, I'm passionate about this thing that I wear. It's called a Whoop. And what this thing does is it tracks my sleep. I know I got 7 hours and 12 minutes of sleep last night, which is pretty good for me. The night before, I got 8 hours and 32 minutes, which is really good. I know how many calories I burn a day, and that helps me know how many calories I can eat that day, or just in general. There's like an average. I'm able to know how strenuous my workouts are, when I need to be more recovered. I know my heart rate variability, which helps me aware of like how my heart is doing, how, related to health. And it makes me aware of many different aspects of my own health. That's a way of measuring my own health. And I use this thing every single day because what, for me, gets measured gets managed. So in a similar way, I think us doing things like meditation, us things not being so reactive to the 3D, these are different ways we can measure our own vibe. That's why also I'm making an app right now that kind of does this as well. But that's such a huge fan of what they call this Whoop thing, that's one thing that really helped me get in shape. So something I'm trying to do right now is recreate the Whoop in some type of way for consciousness. But in general, if you didn't know or heard me talk, I've sent thousands of people to Whoop. And originally, I got this one from Amazon. And the reason I will not wear it is because it looks almost the same exact. It's a copy of the Whoop, but it takes your tone of your voice throughout your day, and it can tell what kind of emotion you're in. And I don't like that idea. So I got it recently, and I'm not wearing it. And that's why I'm not wearing it, because I didn't know that it picks up the tone of your voice. And there's so many times I'm using my phone or I'll be talking about something, and then all of a sudden I get emails about it, and I know that this stuff's listening, which is kind of creepy to me, very creepy to me. However, the Whoop does not do that. The Whoop is something that I've been wearing for over 3 or 4 years, since before even Joe Rogan talked about it in his podcast. He started promoting it about a year ago. Now it's huge. But even before then, I was wearing it. I've been a big believer in it. So right now, I've also teamed up with Whoop. They're sponsoring this podcast. And all you got to do is you get to try it for free. You get a whole month for free. Just go to www.aarondoughty, AARONDOUGHTY.com/Whoop, WHOOP. And you can try it out for 1 month for free and just see if you like it. I've sent so many people there. So many people love it. So I just wanted to also let you know you get a month for free. You get to try it out for absolute free. And you get to track it all. So if you like it, if you don't like it, then you send it back. But there's different colors, this band that you can wear. All you do is wear it. You get used to wearing it after a while. And it's like, you can get it wet. You just got to take the battery. You charge it with this little battery thing for a period of time. And then when you're done, you put it, for like literally an hour every couple days. You charge it, and then it's waterproof. You can go in the water, you can swim, whatever you want to do. So I've been wearing it for 3 or 4 years. I got a tan line because of it, but I'm a huge fan of it. And if you want to try it for free, you can do that right now. They've opened it up for a 30-day free trial. You go to aarondoughty.com/whoop, AARONDOUGHTY.com/WHOOP, free month. Try it out. What gets measured gets managed, and see how it changes your health, your energy, and all of that stuff, because what you're aware of, that is power. So with that being said, let's get into this rest of this episode right now. Welcome back to another episode on Into the Vortex with Aaron Doughty. And in this episode, I'm going to be sharing with you the major difference between the 3D to the 5D reality moving into 2021, and how we can cross the bridge into 5D. There'll be a lot of practical ideas in this video. I know sometimes we talk about 3D versus 5D, and they sound like very esoteric terms that are kind of ungrounded, but my goal with this episode is to show you the practicality of it, and to also vulnerably share with you some of the patterns that I'm becoming aware of in my own life, and how I'm clearing those out so that in 5D, in 2021, in 5D, it's much easier for me to exist in that state of consciousness. So first off, Into the Vortex with Aaron Doughty. So that's the name of the podcast. It's recently been changed. It'll stay there, I promise. I said I promised last time because it was like something to do with Vortex, but Into the Vortex. And normally I will be recording these podcast episodes in Sedona, Arizona, which is a vortex in of itself. So that's kind of the magic of it too. I have a house that I just bought there that is being remodeled. It's the first house I've ever bought. I'm so excited for it. I am putting quite a bit of renovations into it for the next 3 weeks, including new floors, new paint, new granite countertops, painting the cabinets a different color, and it's something that's the podcast room is going to be pretty cool. There's going to be like a wood background, and those are going to be on the main channel as well. And the goal is that with the podcast, I'm able to bring more and more people onto the podcast. So having chairs where they're like facing each other, it's going to be really cool. The solo episodes I enjoy doing, and it's just more practical as well. It's like easy for me to get up in the morning to make these episodes, but having somebody help me reach out to other people that I would love to have on the podcast will be the next intention, the next goal. In 3 weeks, I move into that place. Super excited. But until then, we're in the vortex of Vegas. A little bit different energy here, but hey, it's still a vortex. Now, the first thing that I think about 2021 that I wanted to share with you guys is I believe that the year 2021, in general, energetically, represents a year of massive embodiment, embodying the higher vibrational version of you, embodying what we could call our higher self, and understanding that when we channel or are in the energy of our higher self, we are in more alignment than ever. Things happen to us easier than ever. We don't have to try as hard. There's more synchronicity than ever before. And in 2021, I believe that many of us light workers are going to be stepping into that energy. And one of the main things that I think, the reasons I think that can happen now is because 2020 for me and for the collective consciousness and for many of you is and was all about clearing and integrating the shadow. The shadow is the unconscious part of ourselves that has been brought into awareness. And think of awareness as the light. Now, darkness is just an absence of light. It's what we're not aware of. It's funny, I was hearing Elon Musk in an interview. I had it on yesterday while I was like cooking and stuff like that. And there was like this interview of Elon Musk, and it was like this inspiring thing, but it was really funny. He was talking about like back in the, I don't know, it was the 90s it was a long time ago. But people were asking him about like his childhood and stuff like that. And he was like, yeah, well, when I was a kid, I was afraid of the dark. And then I learned when I was 12 that all dark was a lack of protons or photons. And then I realized that it's pretty silly to be afraid of a lack of photons. That's all darkness is. It's a lack of photons. So it's kind of funny, like intellectual, nerdy way of looking at like being afraid of the dark. But like the darkness is a lack of light. It is a lack of photons. So a 12-year-old Elon Musk that was like, well, I realized how ridiculous it was to be afraid of a lack of photons. It's a very intellectual way of looking at it. But in the same way, when we're talking about our shadow is just the unaware aspect of ourself. It is the unaware parts of patterns that we have that we're not aware of. There are certain people in my life in 2020 that I realized I was attracting into my life because I was unaware of an old shadow that stemmed from childhood that was attracting people into my life, different energy dynamics. And it's as I look back, by the way, it is so obvious. But in the moment when I wasn't aware of it, there was a lack of photons. There was a lack of light. I wasn't aware of it. And it was attracting different energy dynamics to me. And those energy dynamics were reflecting back to me my own power. Now, in order for me to really embody, I'd say that 2021 for me is going to be a year of really embodying my own frame of reality. It's ironic to me that I bought this house at the end of 2020 after I've been doing a lot of shadow work, and the day of the close of this house, meaning I got the keys to this house, was December 21st, 2020. So December 21st, which I think was a very powerful, energetic time. That's when I got the keys. And now for the next 3 weeks, what's going to be happening is the house is being remodeled, then I move in, and 2021 is me. It's a representation as well as me owning my own house is a symbol for me of like being in my own frame. And one of the reasons being for this, I believe as well, is the energy dynamic of my childhood, for example, with a lot of the energy that I was clearing out from 2020, was that I felt safe in other people's frame. So this has been a huge epiphany for me. And this is something I was unaware of. But I look back to my childhood, and many of you may know my childhood, but in the between 7 to 16 years old, I had an abusive ex-stepmom in my life. She was mentally, physically, emotionally abusive. My brother and I did not have much freedom at all. We were constantly in her frame of reality. And she would brainwash us not want to go see our real mom. We weren't allowed to at a certain point. My dad was a firefighter. He was gone half the time, there half the time, but he kind of just let it happen in a way. Because he was also didn't have a strong frame, so he was a part of her frame. And my ex-stepmom is also a narcissist. A narcissist is someone that has a very strong frame. And one of the reasons they have such a strong frame is because growing up, They didn't feel safe. So the way they decided to feel safe is either they were abandoned or they had to control their reality in order to feel safe. So one thing they did is they manipulated their environment. They manipulated the people around them. And then they became narcissists, which means they didn't feel, a narcissist is somebody that doesn't on the inside really feel worthy or important. So they have to like accentuate that feeling of being important and worthy. And they do that and they establish that frame and they impose it on other people. And then they get other people to feel less than. They will, in a way, minimize their frame so that they feel worthy. Now, in 2020, in general, it was a year of massive shadow integration. And what we're seeing in reality, even when we look into the collective consciousness, is many people are becoming aware of the narcissistic tendency of some of the leaders. And I'm not just talking about Trump. I'm talking about the narcissism of the elite, whatever we want to call this. But there are people on the planet that have been controlling the dynamic of the power for a very long time. And many of us are becoming aware of that energy dynamic. And the way that a lot of the people, and by controlling the media, by controlling the perception, these are people that don't believe in their own power, so they believe they need to, in a way, control the power dynamics of everybody else and keeping everyone else believing that they're not powerful. I believe there's people on this planet that know that we're all eternal spiritual beings living temporary human experiences. And if they can make us believe that we're not powerful, then we continue to externalize and give away our power. We continue to agree to a reality that we may not really agree with or like as much, like taxes. And, we've just agreed at a certain point, oh, yes, we will pay 30-40% taxes. This makes sense. And then we agree to it, and then it just becomes the norm. And being told to do this, put this on, and walk here, and then people just become so primed for it that then in order for them to feel safe, they think that they have to keep abiding by, what they're told from authority. So it's an interesting, as I go through this episode, I'll be putting the energy on the individual to collective, just to kind of show, because really the collective is just a reflection of the individual anyways. The shadow we're seeing in the collective is also a reflection of the shadow that's coming out within ourselves. So back to the whole ex-stepmom thing, I realized that from 7 to 16 years old, I felt safe in my ex-stepmom's frame, even though it was abusive, mentally, physically, emotionally abusive. And it's very interesting. I remember very distinctly that when my ex-stepmom and my dad divorced, and my brother and I had all this freedom, we were allowed to eat the food that we wanted to. We were allowed to eat second, we were very malnourished. We were able to eat second servings. We were able to watch TV. We were able to have friends. We were able to go to school activities. When all these things came and we were able to have them, I remember in that uncertainty, in that unknown, there was something kind of scary about it. I remember thinking to myself, man, they call this Stockholm Syndrome, I guess, but I remember thinking to myself, even though it was so painful and there's so much control, at least I felt safe. At least even though I had to sneak watching TV, had to sneak food, at least when I went to bed at night, I felt I didn't feel this anxiety of this unknown, which I started to feel once I had all this freedom. And I see how people get stuck into manipulative, abusive relationships because of that feeling of safety. Now, I thought back in 2012, I went through my awakening. In 2012, I learned meditation. I started observing my thoughts. I realized that I kept attracting my ex-stepmom into my life over and over again. After my ex-stepmom left when I was 16, 17 years old, I attracted a girlfriend that also was controlling in a more jealous way. She was super jealous of me and thought, it was a lot of controllingness that I had to deal with. And I was with her for 5 years, way too long. And then when I broke up with her, I then got transferred from Nordstrom's and BP shoes to Nordstrom's and Salon shoes, a better shoe department. And ironically enough, the manager of that shoe department was just a clone of my ex-stepmom, was manipulative, abusive, not physically, of course, but she got away with a lot. And It was hard for us to get her fired because she was so protected by upper management. And then that's when I had my spiritual awakening in 2012. And within weeks of having that spiritual awakening and forgiving my ex-stepmom, that manager, after, working there for 15 years, she finally got fired. Why? I believe that when we deal with certain patterns, we will either attract people into our life to reflect those patterns back that we haven't worked through, or we will find ourselves letting go of people in our life that no longer we need there to reflect that pattern back. So when I went through my awakening in 2012 and I learned meditation and my vibrational set point changed, I tell this story a lot, but I went on a scale of 1 to 10 from feeling at about a 3 out of 10, with 10 feeling amazing, 1 feeling not great at all of a sudden to feeling 7 or 8 out of 10. I felt high all the time. And I didn't understand why. But as I started to, in a way, unravel my belief systems, let go and forgive my ex-stepmom, and I had a belief system before that there was something wrong with me. I have ADHD, all of these things. And then I realized that everything in my past led me to a spiritual awakening when I learned meditation, that then it unraveled all that negative resistance, and I started to feel high literally all the time. Now, what happened is I never attracted someone like my ex-stepmom again exactly. Here's what I realized recently, though, for 2020. At the end, I was in Tulum, and I was realizing, I was looking at, doing a lot of reflection with a buddy of mine who's like a relationship expert. And I also have this coach that's like a shadow work integration coach. He has like a double PhD, and he teaches like shadow work and Carl Jung. And here's the epiphany that I had about 20. And, this is all really, I wanted to share, I'll get into the 3D, the 5D, but I wanted to share with you some of these big insights because I think as I go through these, I think that they can maybe reflect something back to you. But basically, this is what I realized. Every woman that I've attracted into my life as a girlfriend up until this point has been a woman with a strong frame. Doesn't mean they're always trying to manipulate me or control me, but it was a woman that has a very strong personality. And now let me say there's nothing wrong with this. But what I've realized is that there's a level of comfort that I have in being around people that have a strong frame. And I actually question myself quite a bit. I'm like, man, do I not have a strong frame? And this made me really go within. And I've realized, it's funny because in every area of my life, I have an extremely strong frame. And a strong frame means like a leader, like almost like a leader, like a directiveness, intention. And what I realize is that in the sector of my life of relationships in the past, I have, in a way, allowed other people to establish that frame, which in a way also affects the masculine-feminine polarity within myself. Because in order for the feminine to really feel safe, the masculine must be normally leading and normally comfortable and confident in their own frame. So in 2020, for me, that was a year of massive letting go of the old shadow, becoming aware of the shadow and integrating it. Also doing the feminine, masculine healing within myself, the wounds from childhood. But one of the biggest epiphanies for me is realizing that I've attracted situations into my life over and over again that are reflective of me feeling safe in other people's frame. Even look at the house that I got for the first 8 months of 2020. I lived in a house in Sedona with some friends. And while intellectually I knew that I need my own space, I need my own energy. And I rationalized it though, because I'm like, oh, super high vibe friends, very successful friends as well. So what I did is I moved in with them. And what I realized at the end of this year, as I then eventually making the choice, I can't live with people, I need my own space, is I realized that I felt safe in someone else's frame. And at first it was a great idea, but then there were things that were like manifesting that were coming up that were very obvious. And so like, okay, what I realized, this is the epiphany that I had. I have a naturally strong frame. Even in relationship in relationship. Interesting. I'm having these epiphanies as I do this right now, as I talk it out. It's interesting how that works. But basically what I realized is I realized I felt safe in someone else's frame because I wasn't willing to just like either that's have my own house or travel the world by myself, or it's like almost like I would do these things when something else would present itself rather than me being in my own frame and me leading and doing what I want to do. It was like more safe and comfortable for me to do it with someone else. So I got a house with a buddy of mine. We got this house, amazing house in Sedona, lived in it pretty much all of 2020. And then after a couple months, I realized that there was a lot of resistance coming up inside of me because of not being able to like have my own space, my own energy. And I realized how much I like being in my own energy. This house in Vegas I have is all to myself, and it's like very important for me to have my own energy there. But I rationalized the other house because I'm like, oh, high vibe friends. This just makes sense, right? Now, what ended up happening though is towards the end of this year, I realized this pattern that I had to be into other people's frame. And even in ex-girlfriends, how that was a pattern. And then what I realized is the key to me healing this was honestly me realizing that I already have a strong frame as well. It's just that I don't allow myself to be in it because I don't believe that I have it, if that makes sense. So a big epiphany for me this year is part of my self-image, realizing, oh, I already have a strong frame. I'm already a leader. I'm already somebody that like, and many of you listening to this are already leaders. You're into this type of information when a lot of other people probably think it's woo-woo or weird. So you're already a leader in some way. But a lot of this is just activating a part of yourself that maybe you haven't given yourself permission to activate. When I was a kid, I got pain for being a leader or for having my own opinion or for talking out of turn. And I realize that now part of that safety mechanism is me attracting people into my life where I can feel safe with them, kind of be a part of their frame. And now what I'm realizing very symbolically of me getting this new house is that I need my own house, that I already have my own frame. And a lot of this when I was working with that coach, he was the shadow work integration coach. He told me, he was like, Aaron, you already have a strong frame. You wouldn't be doing what you're doing if you didn't. It's just that you need to realize it yourself and to do what you want yourself. And it was very interesting for me to realize this because the old pattern of attracting narcissistic tendency, like people into my life, and like especially up until that manager that I had back in 2012, it was so obvious to me once I look back, but in it, kind of unaware of it. And I think in 2020 and moving into 2021, people with narcissistic tendencies are going to be having a lot of learning lessons. Even think about it in the terms of the books of The Law of One. The Law of One are channeled material from the 1980s, some of the most profound channeled material of all time. And in it, it talked about how right now on the planet would be called what is called the harvest. The harvest is, in a way, a metaphor for moving from third density into fourth density, or some people could say 3D to 5D. They're just terms, but the biggest difference is 3D is service to self, 5D or 4D is service to others. Now, the difference is narcissists are completely service to self. They will manipulate their environment to get what they want, even at the expense of other people. They lack empathy. They lack that understanding. And in 2020 to 2021, there's going to be a massive shift in energy where people that are narcissistic, we're going to have a lot of learning lessons to learn. I would imagine my ex-stepmom is going through a lot of this right now. I imagine many other people are having that shadow come up. But in a way, this little emblem that I have on this whiteboard that's behind me looks kind of like a boob, but it's not a boob. It's like a circle with an orbit around it. And what you'll find is if you don't do the pattern, don't do the work, you'll continue to attract people into your orbit that will continue to literally bring up your wound over and over and over and over and over again until you look at it and you become aware of it. So another aspect of this I want to share when it comes to shadow, I want to kind of close this loop. I was talking to I was talking to my shadow work coach guy. And one thing that he made me aware of as well was this, when I was looking at my own feminine, masculine polarity from my shadow. And I realized that, I'm a very assertive person in real life. But when it comes to dating, I realized that there's certain ways I'd hold myself back. So in the sector of my life of love, I'd hold myself back in a certain way. And I was like, I wonder why. And there's always this one memory that comes up for me. When I was 13 years old, and by the way, this is all related to the energy of 2021 of embodiment, of us being and having a strong frame and embodying our higher selves, but doing the shadow work now so that we can move forward in a powerful way. So how you do one thing is how you do everything. When it comes to this sector of my life of love, I realize that as I heal within it myself, it's also correlating to many other areas of my life. And that includes being in 5D, which 5D is being in alignment, being in your power, not being in the same orbit of the old shadow. Boop. Anyways, so when I was 13 years old, I was going to this Parks and Recs place because my ex-stepmom and dad would drop me off there, and my brother, because they would go to work or something like that. So we had this Parks and Recs place in the park here in Vegas. It was like Paradise around, like it was in a certain part of town. Anyways, there was this 18-year-old teacher, and I was 13, and there was this dance that you could go to if you were like 13 or above. So if you were younger, you had to go to this one place, but we got to go to the frickin' dance. So I remember going to this dance. I didn't know that many people there. Didn't really have many friends. It was also pretty socially awkward, I would say, because when you're not allowed to have friends growing up from 7 to 16 years old, it makes you not really understand. Like you can't, if someone's like, hey, let's go play on the weekend, you'd have to be like, I can't. I'm not allowed to do anything. And then you'd always be that weird one. It's like, oh, he just doesn't want to play with us. But at this Parks and Recs place, there was this dance. And at this dance, it was, like the first real dance I've ever really been to. And there was music in the background. And there was this one teacher that I thought was freaking hot. Okay? So what I did is I kind of stood around for a while. And then I went over to her. And she was with somebody else, and I was like, hey, do you want to dance with me? Or like dance with me or something like that. I was very assertive. And when I said that, she then got there was another guy, I guess, that she was there with, but also I was 13, she was 18. She goes, oh, haha, so cute, let me find someone for you. And then she found me some like girl I did not want to dance with that was more my age. And in that moment, I felt rejected. Now, what I realized is that in the dating sector of my life, me being as assertive as I am with my business and many other areas of my life, I realized that I hadn't been leading up until that point. I hadn't been leading up until even now me becoming aware of the shadow. And one of the reasons is subconsciously there's like an inner child inside of me that's afraid of being rejected for being assertive and for laying it on the line and for being that way. Now, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So my being that way, it's also some other areas of my life I can see where that's also there, even though I'm generally more assertive in general in other areas of my life. But I'm able to see that very clearly. So what happened is I shut that out. Now, when I was telling my coach this, my shadow work coach this, you want to know what he said? He's like, I bet you. Because remember this orbit, we attract similar situations in our life over and over and over again in our life so that we can become aware of the pattern. And basically what he said was, I bet you that your type of chick, of girl that you date looks very similar to that girl that rejected you when you were 13. In that moment, my mind was blown. Literally, my type is I normally date women that are brunette. I normally date women that have like a certain energy. And it was very obvious to me that was part of the pattern. I was literally attracting a similar woman over and over and over again. And that's my type. My type was the the 13-year-old version of me from the 18-year-old that rejected me. So it's interesting to me. That was just I was like, whoa. It was like, I normally don't date, and that's a pattern I'm breaking out of now. I'm not gonna. Once you become aware of a pattern, not that it's all about looks, but once I become aware of, why am I attracted to this? I can then see, it's an old pattern of me bringing up this wound over and over again, so that I can deal with the shadow. And dealing with that shadow helps me to then let go of the old pattern dynamic. So when we talk about 5D, realize that what survives in 5D is awareness, becoming aware of these old patterns so that then you can embody a new aspect of yourself. The old aspect of me was afraid to actually lead and be myself for the afraid of rejection, especially in the area of love. Now I'm getting my own house. I'm doing these things that I didn't feel safe of before. I felt more comfortable moving into a house with somebody else that had a strong frame rather than me developing my own strong frame and my own gravity and my own reality. Oh, there goes gravity. Okay. Now, this has been a huge epiphany for me. This year, it's been like a whole bunch of just epiphanies of me becoming aware of these old shadow aspects of myself. And as I heal it within myself, as I realize it within, really, awareness is the key to healing. Because now I can become safe in my own frame by realizing that I can also become safe by letting go of trying to control the universe as much as I do. There's almost a safety in trusting the universe that I wasn't allowing myself to feel before. In a way, I think I attract narcissists into my life, but in a way, I have some controlling parts of myself that I need to integrate because I try to control aspects of my life, which means I don't actually trust the unknown. I don't trust the flow of the universe. Well, guess what? In 2021, that's going to be something that I become very much aware of, is that the pattern that I have within myself of trying to control my own life instead of trusting the universe as well. So when we talk about 2021, let me talk a little bit about the difference between 3D and 5D for a second. The Dolores Cannon material talks a lot about this, how, people were in a deep state of hypnosis called QHHT, quantum healing hypnosis technique is the technique that is used. But basically, people in a deep level of hypnosis, thousands of people all over the world, that books are transcripts of these sessions, and many people said very similar things. Their subconscious mind came through, and that's what the books are. And it said, we came here to be a part of the shift in consciousness. We came here to be a part of the 3 to 5D earth shift. 3D represents separation, control, duality. 5D represents unity, connection, alignment, flow, vibration. You could say 4D is the dimension of time. The law of one talks a little bit about this too, but it uses a little bit different terminologies. But basically, the law of one says the same thing. It's the harvest right now. We are having the ability to upgrade our consciousness to a new state of more alignment, where reality becomes much more like a dream. Things are much more about vibration. The time feels like it goes by so much faster. I have 3 weeks to wait to move into this house in Sedona that's being remodeled right now, and I know it's just going to fly by before I even know it. I'll be there because time is just flying by, the perception of it. Now, there's people on this, there's also, when we talk about 3D to 5D, the way Dolores Cannon talked about it, is these two realities are literally overlaying themselves right now. When you look out into the world, there are many people in 3D, worried about this, worried about that. That 3D is a level of fear, and there's people on the planet that know that when you keep people in fear, they're much easier to control. There's people on this planet that have kept people in a certain state of consciousness for a long period of time, and they know that if they can control the narrative and they can control the media, they can control the energy dynamics. And moving forward in 2021 and beyond, this is about becoming aware of the 3D, not buying into it, not being in reaction mode, not getting sucked into it, and realizing that is something we can experience, but we can also experience 5D. 5D is following your passion. 5D is observing what is happening in the world. 5D is being grounded in your own frame. And as you do these different things, you're going to be able to see the difference between these two realities, because for a period of time, they're going to continue to overlay themselves. So the choice is up to us. But 3D is separation and fear. 5D is connection and understanding and awareness, becoming aware of the old patterns. So Dolores Cannon talks about it from a 3D to 5D Earth split, where for a period of time there's like this overlaying energy, and then eventually it begins to spread out more and more. Bashar talks about this as well. For a period of time, there's what's called the glass wall. We can look through this wall and see the other realities, see the fear, see the media, see the craziness going on. And for a period of time, we are going to be able to see through that glass wall. But eventually what will happen is, think of it kind of like you're on train tracks. And for a while, the trains are kind of going close together. But eventually, as time goes on, they're spreading out more and more and more. And that's why the key is to get onto the reality you prefer by choosing your own energy. And I'm sorry to tell you, I know a lot of people enjoy and get a lot out of studying conspiracy theories. While I think many or some of them may have some truth in them, if we are in fear over some conspiring activity and agenda, and we are feeding it, then we are also feeding that reality. And we are a part of it. That's fear. Yes, I'm aware that there's certain things that exist of the energy dynamics of the elites. I'm aware of it, but I don't choose to keep putting my energy there, because I notice that it depletes my energy, and I'm actually feeding that reality and giving it energy. So one of the important parts of this whole energy dynamic at play is just simply awareness. That is the bridge. The bridge into 5D is simply awareness. Becoming aware of the old patterns, the old pattern dynamics. Do you feel safe in someone else's frame? Are you able to establish boundaries? A huge thing this year for me has been establishing boundaries. If you have boundaries, that signals you being in your power. If you have boundaries and can say no to someone that wants to do something and wants to manipulate you, if you can say no, then you are saying yes to your own power. So for me, becoming aware of that energy dynamic has been key to me being in 5D energy. Now realize as well that attachment is what's keeping you in 3D. Attachment to old patterns, attachment to old relationships, attachment to old labels, attachment to old beliefs, attachment to positionalities, which are like positions we have to be right. Oh, I'm right about this conspiracy theory, but you might be right about it to the edge, to the expense of your own happiness. Realize there's many different realities that exist. And I'm with you. Like, but I'm saying, I think what's more important is your own energy, your own happiness, versus being right about what's happening in the world. And moving forward in 2021, it is a year of really claiming your own power. Doing what you are passionate about, going after your passion. Realizing that as you go after your passion, that is the frequency of who you really meant to be. But letting go of the old is really key. But the reasons, you see, here's the thing I've been saying all of 2020 as I've been learning about letting go. Letting go is not actually hard. It is very easy. It is making the choice to let something go that is hard for many people, because they have reasons why they shouldn't let go. Well, if I let go of that old relationship, then it means I'm not going to be happy. I'm not going to be loved. What if I never find that kind of connection again? You see, that's a reason. And you're afraid that if you let it go, then you'll actually never get it. When in actuality, when you let something go, you then retain more power and you're more free and you have more opportunities that come to you, and you're also signaling more attractiveness because you're in your own energy. You're not needy. You see how that works, though? What's hard is making that choice. It's about letting go of a label. I was realizing back in the day it was hard for me to let go of the belief that I had ADHD, because that is what really justified a lot of my childhood and a lot of my experiences. But then I realized that if I let that go, the need to be right, I made the choice to let it go and to take on a new identity of meditation. That changed my whole entire life. So it's not actually the letting go that's hard. It's making the choice to let go. Knowing that you can trust the universe to bring you something even more magical. You can trust the universe to realize you don't have to control everything. You don't have to control everything. You can allow things to happen. In 2020, I believe a lot of the narcissistic energy of service to self, which is like the law of one, service to self, that'll begin to dissipate more and more. More and more people will become aware of it. Boundaries are going to be very important for 2021. And understanding that the more free and the more you can step into it's going to be really about a year of stepping into the unknown. I'll be doing live events, even though there's a lot of craziness happening in the world. I'll be really stepping into this new version of me, trusting in that reality, in my own frame. So stand up, like the Bob Marley song. Stand up for yourself. Stand up. Go after your passion. Realize that the 5D is really about you as a light worker coming into your own energy. 5D is about you being a leader. I believe that everybody that is listening to my content, that is even open to the content, at the leading edge, because a lot of people aren't even open to this esoteric information, which means in some way you're a leader. Doesn't mean you have to start a channel, doesn't mean you have to do what I'm doing exactly, but you just have to be yourself. And when you're being yourself and you have this information, it trickles out in ways you don't even understand. Subconsciously, energetically, it just does. Now, something that my buddy Victor Otto and I do is we do help people go full-time doing what they love. We show step-by-step how you can monetize and grow. What you really need is to grow attention, to grow an audience, where then you could provide your services, whether you're a healer, an artist, a coach, content creator, whatever it is. If you want to learn how to do that, my buddy Victor Otto and I have something called Full-Time Purpose. You can go to fulltimepurpose.com, and we'll show you how to go full-time doing what you love, strategy for it. It's not as hard as you think. You do not need thousands of subscribers or followers to do it. You just have to have a right plan to do it. If I knew what I knew now, back when I first started, I would have been full-time within weeks when I had almost no followers, because it's realizing you only have to be one step ahead of other people. You don't have to be somebody that has it all figured out, but you just be one step ahead with some results someone else would want, whether it's being a coach or you're an artist or you have services, whatever it is. But now's the time, I think, of people really stepping into their own power, stepping into their own passion. And when this video goes out, we're going to open up Full-Time Purpose for enrollment. So you can enroll right now. It opens up a couple times a year. And you get month-to-month coaching. Victor's a coach that's in there every single month answering questions, helping people through the process. And then we show you all of our strategies and our techniques for growing on social media, how to grow an email list, how to do what we did. The potential is insane once you learn the strategy. But you kind of, what took us years to learn, we teach so that you can learn it within weeks. But that's in fulltimepurpose.com. You can go to www.fulltimepurpose.com and check that out. We'll open it up for enrollment right now. I'll make sure this podcast episode goes out for that. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I had a lot of fun recording it. Let me know if you want me to do more on the energy dynamics of 2021, how we can embody that higher version of ourselves. And if you didn't know, as always, this is also going to be posted on the main YouTube channel with a clip. And then the second YouTube channel, the Into the Vortex Podcast with Aaron Doughty. There'll be a full episode there to watch. And then on iTunes and Spotify are the actual, easy to download and listen to episodes. So you'll see that there as well. So with that being said, hope you guys enjoy this episode, and I'll talk to you on the next one. Peace, much love, and namaste.